If you're in the mood for good storytelling, check out Audible using my promo code below. When Leonard Fournette was drafted 4th overall back in 2017, the Jaguars made a statement that they were committing to the run game. They had Blake Bortles as their quarterback, and Fournette was seen as that extra punch that could keep this offense on schedule. Well, 2 seasons later, Bortles is gone, and the Jaguars are still waiting on Fournette to become that premier talent. While Fournette did have a good rookie season, gaining over 1,000 rushing yards, he's dealt with a variety of injuries, and he still hasn't taken that next step into the upper echelon of running backs. In this video, I wanted to talk about why this is the case and what I see from him going forward. Before we jump into those specific traits and tendencies, let's walk through a brief overview of this offense. On Fournette's 43 runs so far this season, the Jaguars primarily run power as their main play. This is run out of shotgun, it's run out of single back, and it's also run out of I formation just like it was on this play. Notice how the play side guard pulled to wrap around the formation, while the tight end in the backfield was Fournette's lead blocker on this one. This play is called G-Power Lead. If you can overload one side of the formation, getting more blockers than there are defenders, this can be a great play designed to take advantage of the situation. Meanwhile, their next most popular play is based on gap principles. Duo, which is commonly referred to as power without pullers, is a pure mono-on-mono run. Many teams use it for goal line and short yard situations because it's a fast-hitting play. The Jaguars, on the other hand, use it in every other situation, even on first downs. Personally, it's not one of my favorite plays that they run, but that's a topic for a much different video. Outside of these 2 plays, their third most popular play is inside zone. Just like the other plays, this is run out of every formation using a variety of personnel groups. Many teams run it exactly as the Jags did on this one. They use their running back and shotgun, and they attack the weak side of the formation. When you add these 3 plays together, you can definitely argue that the Jaguars emphasize the old school mentality of running the ball. Running power, gap, and sprinkling in the occasional zone run out of heavy looks isn't something as commonly seen in the modern NFL. Yes, all teams do run these same plays to a certain extent, but we now see more offenses focus on single back or really any lighter formations in order to stretch the defense across the field. Regardless, the issue that I have after watching all of his runs is that Fournette and his offensive line are both very inconsistent. Throughout the first 3 games of the season, and especially in this last one against the Titans, this offensive line was way overmatched. On his 43 runs, I estimated the Jaguars blocking create an average of 2.5 yards per carry. For reference, a good offensive line on average creates around 3 yards per carry according to all the metrics that I created last season. Now, one thing you may have noticed from this chart is that Fournette on his 43 carries has created an average of 1.7 yards per carry independent of his offensive line. This is actually pretty good. However, it does come with the giant asterisk I showed on the right side of your screen. Fournette had one 69-yard run against the Titans that completely distorted this metric. If you ignore this one run, you can tell just how crazy the single carry impacted his numbers. His average dropped from 1.7 yards per carry independent of his offensive line all the way down to 0.2. That's really low. Before we jump into why his numbers are really low, let's look at that 69-yard run. In the 4th quarter of the Titans game, Jacksonville called lead slam out of I formation. Fournette attempted to follow his blocker up the hole, but that shut down pretty quickly. He then lowered his center of gravity, bulldozed forward, and somehow escaped through the gap on the other side. The defense was out of position due to some good downfield blocking by number 77, and Fournette was off the races, gaining 69 on this play. Outside of this one run though, most of his others unfortunately looked like the following. You exclude this one carry, Fournette's average yards per carry dropped from 4.3 down to 2.6. So the question you may be asking is, why is this the case? Why can't Fournette create yards in this offense? One major observation I had while I was going through his film was how few broken tackles he created on his runs. After all, we kind of think of Fournette as this power back that bulldozes through arm tackles and blows up defenses, gaining additional yards. What if I told you that this was far from the truth? Since entering the NFL, Fournette has been below average in his ability to break tackles. The average running back breaks a tackle on roughly every 6 carries, while Fournette, on the other hand, only breaks one on every 8th. You can see that on the following graph. I charted all attempts to miss tackles created, and Fournette has been below this line throughout his entire career. Now, this is not to say that he can't break tackles or that he never does, but it simply refutes the idea that this is a big part of his game. So the next question you might be asking is, why doesn't he break a ton of tackles if that's what everybody thinks he does? To answer this question, I had to pour through his tape. After remembering the north to south violent runner he was in college, I got this feeling that he lost a lot of that edge since he entered the NFL. At times when I think he should have cut vertically to take on a defender, he kept pushing horizontally and would miss out on yards that were there for him to take. Maybe that stems from the large number of injuries he faced over his career, but if you showed me his tape from his sophomore breakout season at LSU, I wouldn't think these two are the same player. He was a man amongst boys during those days, and I just don't think he carries that same aggressiveness anymore. To me, this is a bit concerning because he's never really been a shake and bake type of runner. I just get the feeling that he's attempting to do that more recently. Hopefully he returns to what made him good from before. Moving on, the next thing that I noticed as I went through his tape was that if he wasn't 100% committed to where he was running, he would sometimes run into his own guys or he'd miss opening holes completely. I see this as an issue with his vision. Here's an example against the Texans. It's 1st and 10 and the Jaguars are down by 7 in the 4th quarter. The offense called one back power at a shotgun. The tight end at the right side of the formation kicked out the end man of the line of scrimmage, while the backside guard Andrew Norwell pulled to wrap around the double team, attempting to create an alley for his running back. Instead of patiently sitting directly behind the pulling guard to set up his block, Fournette aggressively stepped forward and attacked the line of scrimmage. Zach Cunningham knifed through these blocks and pulled him down, limiting him to just a 4-yard carry. Now, in the grand scheme of things, 4 yards on a first down isn't the end of the world. However, the issue is that he could have had more. Imagine if after Fournette took his handoff, he saw the giant gaping hole right in front of him. This could have been at least 6 or 7. On the other hand, say Fournette actually ran this play properly and stepped around Norwell to get behind his tight end. This could have also created a similar result as going through that other hole. Either way, both of these solutions are better than what he did on this play. This is why it's disappointing. From an overall standpoint, I saw this same issue happen multiple times during his first 3 games of the season. I feel like whenever he wasn't decisive, or whenever he didn't know his own limitations in terms of shaking defenders rather than just simply running them over, he ran into these issues. He's never had great hip or ankle flexibility, so moving from gap to gap has always been an issue, and it clearly still is. The final point that I'm going to make in this video is to refute the one common argument I keep seeing about Fournette and his low production. Many people are under the impression that defenses are purposely stacking the box to slow him down since they don't respect Gardner Minshew. This argument, in my opinion, is false. In order to clear up any misconceptions regarding stack boxes, let's talk about what they actually are and how often they actually happen. First, let's start with the definition. A stack box is whenever the defense has 8 men or more lining up in the box. To figure this out, you draw an imaginary line from around the tackles or anybody lining up around the line of scrimmage to 5 yards back, and then you count every single defender in that area. For example, on your screen, you should see 8 men in this box while they only have 7 blockers. This +1 defensive player to offensive player ratio is extremely common for a very good reason. The defense aligns to the offense on every single play. They want to fill these gaps. With the offense having 7 blockers, this creates 8 holes for the running back to get through, and the defense wants to plug all those gaps. On the other hand, if the offense lines up with less men like they do in shotgun with only 6 blockers, you can probably guess how many defenders they'll have in the box. That answer follows the same exact formula we just discussed. The vast majority of the time, a defense will be +1 to whatever the offense has. So in this example, you should see 7 defenders. Note, I purposely ignored the 1 defender on the back left since he's not actually in run support. He's caught running across the field in man coverage, and this is why he doesn't count in our totals. So the reason why I bring this all up comes down to the simple idea that the offense, not the defense, actually dictates how many defenders are in the box. This is why there's a proliferation of spread formations in college and why they're making their way into the NFL. Offenses know they can get advantageous box situations if they just spread out the defense. To give you numbers to all this and to prove my point, Fournette actually only faced a stack box on 27% of his carries. While this number is definitely on the higher side, there are other running backs such as Kerryon Johnson, Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara who are facing even higher stack box rates. Even guys like Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey, who are having much better seasons, are also right around Fournette in this metric. So to wrap this final point up, higher stack box rates do have an impact on how many rushing yards an offense will create. This much has been proven with advanced data. But the key point in all this is that this is not the main reason why Fournette is underperforming. Fournette is underperforming due to all my previous reasons. He's not breaking tackles like he should be, he's missing out on opportunities that his offensive line is creating, and finally, he just seems to be less aggressive in his playstyle, which has a noticeable impact on what he produces on the field. Well, that's all I have for you in this one. If you're like me and you enjoy good storytelling, Audible is your best source for audiobooks. They have a very easy to use app that is convenient for use at the gym while commuting or on the go. Audible gives you access to so many different titles and authors, among the bestsellers to audiobooks on business to even audiobooks on sports, and they're all professionally narrated. Plus, once you choose your audiobook, it's completely yours. For me personally, and I've been a member going on 2+ years now, I love audiobooks on how people create innovative ideas that change the sports that we love. For example, I just listened to Astroball: The New Way to Win It All by Ben Ryder, and that audiobook was perfect. He detailed the behind-the-scenes process on how the Astros went from the worst teams in baseball to one of the best, and he does so in a very unique way. Honestly, I'm not even a huge baseball fan, and this book was simply great. And yes, there are definite takeaways to the world of football as long as you keep an open mind. So start listening with a 30-day Audible trial. Choose one audiobook and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. Visit audible.com/Samuel or by texting Samuel to 500500. Again, that's audible.com/Samuel or by texting Samuel to 500500. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Also, if you want to keep this channel going, you can support me through my Patreon account, and you can follow me on Twitter at Samuel R. Gold.